Give us 60 minutes and we'll give you Nelson Radio every Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. on KTLK AM 1150. With 29 years in the mortgage business and an array of top-level guests visiting the show, Nelson is in a unique position to bring you cutting-edge information on real estate, business, finance, and law. If you have any questions for Nelson or any of his guests, give him a call at 888-888-2136. That's 888-888-2136. Or check him out online at nelsonradio.com.
Nelson Radio.
You're listening to Nelson Radio. This segment brought to you by Academy Mortgage.
Welcome back to Nelson Radio. We're continuing our expose on Sci-Arc, Southern California Institute of Architecture. I'm with my co-host Brett Miller and also Gerard Bizignano from Peninsula Sotheby's, and we have another delightful guest. I'm excited. I feel like it's just an all-star lineup.
Yeah,
you know a lot about exposés, don't you know?
Michael Rotondi, Sci-Arc Design Faculty, Principal, Roto Architecture, if I said that correctly, right here in Los Angeles, and one of the really huge legacies of architecture here in Southern California.
Recently, Michael was voted one of the 30 most admired design teachers in America, and with that, we should introduce Michael Rotondi. But actually, Michael, I have a question for you right off the bat. I mean, coming from this great school which has so much influence, what architect do you think has had the greatest influence in Southern California?
I mean, it all began with Frank Lloyd Wright. He moved here, and that was the first attractor. And then you get Schindler and Neutra, and then you get people after that. Things went dormant for quite a while. As Esther McCoy said, the flowers began to grow, and then the weeds from the east came and settled in.
What caused the dormancy?
The weeds from the east. Pay attention, keep up.
I think the dormancy was, things ebb and they flow. And there was a lot of ideas that hit the ground here running very quickly in a short period of time, but it didn't have a social infrastructure to pick up on it. Architecture is the one sort of creative discipline that the ideas have to begin someplace else and find their way into architecture because of the size of the infrastructure that you need. The social infrastructure, the financial infrastructure, the amount of resources that you need in order to produce a building of any size.
Well, Los Angeles is a relatively new city. So do you think that has something to do with the dormancy, since it's a newer city, since architects really were starting someplace else before they came here, Frank Lloyd Wright being a perfect example?
I think, there was, actually my generation, I was born here. I still live within 2 miles of where I was born, Silver Lake area. Everybody was from someplace else. Los Angeles is to the United States what the United States is to the world. People come to the United States for a whole variety of reasons, primarily certain kinds of freedom. You come to Los Angeles if you want creative freedom. You don't need political freedom, but you come here there's sort of familial political freedom that you're looking for. Architecture, all of the arts, well, if you just look at cooking was revived in Los Angeles. Fusion cooking, the same way there's fusion culture here, fusion cooking began here. We were able to do fusion architecture.
You think Los Angeles is still a wide open city?
Yeah, it's still a wide open city. I've traveled a lot and I go to lots of schools. Sci-Arc has, using a sports metaphor, the deepest bench of any school in the world right now.
Well, Brett's sitting up. He spent so much time there.
Oh, that's a good one, Nelson. Hey, let me ask you seriously, Michael. You said creative discipline.
Yeah.
And that people come to LA to be creative and free.
Yeah.
How does Sci-Arc's philosophy combine those two words, creative discipline? Because some people would not think that being creative would lend itself to being disciplined.
Creativity, the word that has to go with creativity is uncertainty. As anyone gets older, as institutions get older, as cities get older, we tend to move towards certainty and equate that to a comfort level. What I learned here from a very early age is that comfort was in proportion to uncertainty. And the school was founded on that. The first director, Ray Cappy, would give me responsibilities. I would get really worried about not knowing what to do. And he would say to me a couple of things. You always figure it out. You don't like to fail. And worst that could happen is you'll screw it up. And I said, I can use that margin. That margin right there just gives you a lot of freedom, and you're relaxed. There's a number of intangibles that we've really worked hard to try to keep alive here, and it has to do with people not always being certain as to what they're doing, but having the confidence to continually moving forward, and not relying on things that they already know. And that's what creativity. So as a creative discipline, sometimes we think being able to having great facility with software is creative, or repeating yourself because it was considered to be high art, and then people begin to copy that. That's not creative.
Perfect lead-in for me having to repeat myself. You're listening to Nelson Radio on KTLK AM 1150. We're with Michael Rotondi, one of the iconic architects and product of Sci-Arc, the Southern California Institute of Architecture, where we're broadcasting from today. Give us a call direct, 888-888-2136. That's 888-888-2136, or click through at nelsonradio.com. You'll be able to see a variety of Michael's works that he's produced over his career. Michael, I wanted to ask you, because we were at Ray Cappy's house last week, and Ray said that he was not the community kind of architect. He liked to be isolated and have those creative elements flow, and then he would bring that back to community. And I want to contrast that to today's social network. Everyone is socially connected. The students are tied together. They come in bands. Does that dampen their creativity, or does it actually accelerate it?
No, I think there's a misunderstanding of creativity. We always think that creativity is connected to originality. The creative moment is a very intimate moment. You're by yourself. The way the school was set up is that once you produce something, once those ideas come out, you have to put it on the walls to talk about it, plus other people get to see it. The way we institutionalize that, most things are just kept in text. We have an 800-foot long space. Everything that's produced in private gets put into public to be spoken. The way you get people to look at that is you put the bathrooms really far apart, and you get everybody walking, and then it takes them an hour to go to the head, right. And you then encourage them to take their notebooks and see what they like, but then acknowledge where did that come from, who did this, and begin talking to them. So that students who may not even be in the same class strike up relationships with students that are in other classes.
And there is a freedom of thought, there's a freedom of expression, there's a freedom of interaction.
Yes.
And that really helps to propel the creative. Is Sci-Arc unique in that?
Yeah, that's how we've grown so fast. And we've never really we didn't really have our sights set on being where we are right now. You just put your head down, you keep moving forward, you're totally committed to a set of principles, you're transgressing them and coming back time and again, and it's just work ethic. In any case, in China, they were asking me how, after only 40 years, you could be on equal standing with the best of the best in the world that are anywhere from 100 to 200 years old. Like a burp, what popped out was cooperation. And cooperation is sharing everything. Open source. The school has always been open source. We are currently living in a period where there's minor innovation, but no maximum invention. Why? Because everybody's end game is to sell their app to Google. Here, we say that that's not the case.
Let me ask you this, because what makes someone brilliant is the contrast of who's not brilliant. What makes somebody good is somebody that is not that good. And what creates bad architecture? I mean, a bad architect would say, well, I'm just transgressing, I'm just being creative. But fundamentally, it could be just bad.
If you take anybody, any adult, and you bring them back to childhood, they were free, there was nothing at stake, and their imagination was in full bloom. The way we structure our education system, and over time we want things to be more predictable or at least probable. You want the same oranges, the same size, the same color, in the same location in the supermarket. That's a metaphor and a model for everything else, right? The way you get good architecture is because you have a good client, and that you have an architect who's willing to roll the dice. When it comes up snake eyes, instead of giving up, he picks up the dice and rolls them again.
Willingness to make a mistake.
Yeah, that if you're risk averse and you're afraid to make mistakes, you're never going to discover anything new.
Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Don't
And that's
be
what we
afraid to
talked
fail.
about criticality at the beginning of the show
Yeah,
in terms
exactly.
of being willing to expose yourself to criticism.
Yeah.
You're listening to Nelson Radio. We've been with Michael Rotondi, one of the icons and developers of Sci-Arc, the Southern California Institute of Architecture. Michael, I want to thank you for being with us. You'll be able to see his works as you click through at nelsonradio.com. And with any questions, I'm going to call you out. Ask you to call us. 888-888-2136. That's 888-888-2136. Hold on. We're going to be right back.
You're listening to Nelson Radio. This segment brought to you by Academy Mortgage. Nelson is a licensed lender under the California Department of Corporations, NMLS 331060.
This is Nelson from Nelson Radio, and it's important that we talk about a very serious issue. We had bad lending practices that led to the mortgage meltdown, but now we've got the challenge of deplorable customer service coming out of the meltdown. Bottom line, getting a new loan can be like pulling teeth without Novocaine. I've got the solution. Academy Mortgage and my team are injecting into the industry real performance and real accountability. Here are the facts. Appraisals in less than a week. Rate guarantees that can improve if the market goes down. Purchase transactions with our market-exclusive close-on-time guarantees and refinance transactions in as little as 30 days. Who would have thunk? Guaranteed rates and guaranteed performance from your mortgage lender. Call me, Nelson, an accountable loan expert for nearly 3 decades. Direct at 888-888-2136. That's Nelson at 888-888-2136. 888-888-2136 or at strongcreditrewards.com.